our podcast. I'm your host, Abby Malcher, and in this podcast, we address the personal and the business issues that female entrepreneurs face in their day-to-day lives. So my guest, again, is Nichole. Hi, Nichole. Hi. So Nichole is a social media strategist. She actually owns her own social media agency. Yeah. And so today we're talking about two things. We're talking about social media strategy, and we're talking a bit more about Nichole's partner experience as somebody who was diagnosed with bipolar personality disorder, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yay. Okay, so maybe just introduce yourself.
Yeah. So, I'm Nichole. I started my business 6 years ago, and got my diagnosis of bipolar disorder 6 years ago as well. And so the business started because of my diagnosis. I wasn't in a position where I could work a typical 9 to 5, and I needed a job I could do from home. So I took a leap of faith and I started it. And it was supposed to be just a part-time job until school semester started. And I was going to school for business marketing. And by the time I graduated, I had enough clients. It didn't make sense to shut it all down and get a job at an agency somewhere. So I just kind of made a go of it. And it's been pretty great. So it's working for me.
Yay! Okay, so some context. We actually were having an interview, I think, last week or the other week, and then I had a blackout.
It happens.
Now we are redoing it. Yeah, but this time I prepared. This time I actually did like a lot of research on what bipolar personality is, and I kept confusing it with borderline personality. So I did some research on that. So yay!
So it's bipolar disorder.
Yeah. But I kept confusing it with borderline. So it's like, what's the difference right now? So I have to learn the two.
It's very similar, but it's two different mental illnesses for sure.
Maybe say the difference, because if I say it, it might something offensive. So you said the difference.
Okay. Honestly, I'm not an expert in borderline personality disorder, but for bipolar, the definition of bipolar, the way that you're diagnosed is if you have a manic episode of some sort. So there's more than two versions of bipolar, but the two most popular, one is when you would have a hypomanic episode, and one would be a full-blown manic episode. And so if you have that episode, then they give you the diagnosis of bipolar disorder. So that's how I got diagnosed. Was I had a manic episode. It was for just about a year, and looking back, we can totally see the signs. I had other episodes. So the way bipolar works, you can have really high highs and really low lows. So I typically go towards more the low side of things and really deep depression. But I have had manic episodes as well. And so it's something I have to watch for no matter what. And so I'm very, very self-aware of my feelings and my mental health. And I can tell when something's off, and I'm like, okay, I need to call the doctor, or I need to do this, and I have all these sort of coping mechanisms and my support system in place to make sure that no matter what, I'm good. Especially as a business owner. I mean, anybody needs to have that when they have a mental illness, but as a business owner, I got to be on top of this because I have a business to run, and I don't have time to be to have a full-blown episode where I lose control of everything. So
okay, so while googling actually WebMD at like my entire source right now, okay, so they had I was trying to understand what exactly a maniac episode it was, and they had said something about you having so much energy and feeling like a genius. Sometimes like all your creative juices are flowing. The part about you stupid in public and not understanding that this might not be an acceptable thing to do.
Yeah, so manic episodes look different for everybody. Okay. For me, my manic episode looked like me packing up my whole life and moving to the other side of the province. And I ran away, essentially. So I damaged a lot of relationships, thankfully, because the diagnosis and a lot of conversations, I've been able to repair those, which is really great and very amazing of everybody that kind of went through the situation with me. But for me, it looked like running away. It looked like me I had this overconfidence. I could do anything. Nothing could get in my way.
Yeah.
Which confidence is good in moderation, not so much in the
I can
situation that
fly.
I had. And for me, I get really irritable when I'm in a manic episode. Like I can feel it, and so when I start finding that I'm like everything is irritating me, usually I'm not sleeping. That's a big one too. So I went a year where I was sleeping very, very little, and then as I came down, I started sleeping a ton, and that was the depression. And so yeah, that for me that looked a little bit different. Some people do a lot of uncharacteristic things, and I mean there was things we don't have to get into everything, but like I spent a lot of money on stuff that I have no idea what it was or what I was spending the money on, but I blew through a ton of money, and that's something that I have to be cautious of. And so one of the things that I did when I started my business was sitting down and getting a will put out and a power of attorney. So if I'm having a manic episode, I have somebody who says, you know what, she's not healthy right now. She can't make her own decisions, and they have control over my financials. So that way I don't run my business completely into the ground. And I have something there when I do come back from that manic episode and I'm stable again.
There's a lot of trust to put in somebody.
Yes,
A lot of
yes, it
trust.
is.
Oh my god. Wow. Okay. Once again, I'm quoting WebMD right now, so I might be wrong. So like according to WebMD, it's genetic. Apparently, there is no actual cause of it. Is that
Right.
true?
Yeah. It's a mood disorder. It's not like there's a chemical imbalance. That's like depression. There's a chemical imbalance, and so you can treat that that way. Bipolar disorder is a mood disorder. So there's no way to really test it or to be like, hey, so there's a chemical in your brain that's missing. It's a neurological thing. So it's really hard to diagnose it, except for to really like talk to a psychiatrist or something where you can walk through like, this is my experiences, and they can kind of monitor and tell you where you're at for that. So it is hereditary. It does run in the family sometimes, but it's not typically, it's very, I still don't understand how it works 100%, but it is hereditary. But if I were to have children, the chances of them having bipolar disorder are actually really small. So it's not passed down in the typical sense that you would normally see with any other hereditary disease.
Okay. And is there like a particular age where it's sort of like spikes and become noticeable?
Yeah. So usually it's in your 20s, not usually as a teenager. Looking back, we see, and it's not impossible, but we can see like in my teenage years that I was having manic episodes. I was doing crazy stuff. Like I was in high school. I was running huge fundraisers. I was interning. I had a co-op placement. I was doing all sorts of things. I wasn't sleeping. And I was like on a high. I could do anything and everything. And looking back, like it's just exhausting thinking about everything I was doing.
Wow.
But I was having the time of my life, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, you're such a go-getter. You're amazing. And looking back, I'm like, oh my gosh, that was a manic episode. That's horrible.
Yeah.
But,
Wow. So it can sort of like disguise itself as confidence.
Yes. Yeah,
Ouch.
exactly. And like you can take on the world. And so, I mean, in some sense, it's good in some sense. Not the manic episode, like the confidence and that sort of thing. But with moderation, for sure. So, yeah, but it's usually diagnosed more later in life. And so like 20s is usually the earliest that they would diagnose. And then like 30, 40, 50 is when a lot of people get their diagnosis. It's very rare that you're diagnosed as a child with bipolar disorder.
Oh. Okay, now this might be an offensive or ignorant question, but like this.
That's okay. I'll correct you if it is.
So, is there like a drug that sort of like cures it, or you have to be on medication like for the rest of your life?
Yeah, so there's no cure for it. There are different treatments and that sort of things that can help you manage it, but you have to continue to get those treatments, or it's not diagnosed. So, or it's not taken care of. So it is a lifelong disease.
Boy.
There's no magic cure at this point for it. So medication is an ongoing thing. Some people manage it different ways. For me, it looks like taking medication every morning and every night for it, and I can tell the difference if I accidentally miss a dose. So it's very important. And then there's your normal coping mechanisms and things that you would learn with any mental illness. You have a lot of those therapy and that sort of thing that you can use. And so all of those are parts of what I do, and I help manage my mental illness.
Okay. Okay. 2 questions. Once again,
Yeah.
if it's ignorant, just tell me. So now the first one is that so basically when you take your drugs morning and night, you're
Yeah.
like it's offensive, please tell me, normal wavelength, or you can or they're still like tiny spikes.
Yeah. So not that there's any normal for anybody. There's my normal. I have my normal. I like to just say that it keeps me stable. And so when I'm stable, it's never like a straight line where you're like, life is amazing all the time. There's little ups and downs. The way that I like to explain it, though, is like if you're on a roller coaster,
Never a
when
good
you're
analogy.
strapped in and safe, that's when you're on your treatments, your medication. You go up and down a little bit. It's totally fine. When you're off your medication, you're not getting those treatments. It's like flying up and down, and there's nothing strapping you in. It's very dangerous. So that's the way I like to see it. It keeps everything manageable. And for sure, I find that I feel big emotions. So if I'm really, like, if I'm happy, I'm really happy. If I'm sad, I can be really sad. And so
Even
I feel
medication.
yes, yeah. So I have to watch that and manage that. And that's where therapy is really great, because if I'm sad, I can say to myself, you know what? This happened today, and it's okay that I am sad, but this is what I'm going to do for me tonight, so that way I make sure in the morning I wake up and I'm okay. And so I can approach it that way instead of just falling deep into depression because I had a bad day.
Okay. So apart from the taking the medication and
Mhm.
therapy, are there any other changes in your life?
It's a lot of being self-aware, monitoring like my sleep. For me, I can't drink at all because of my medication. I can't do things that the average person might be able to do, and I have to monitor my health really carefully in that sense. For me, I can't take like allergy medication, which really sucks during allergy season. Um, or cold medication because it can
Oh,
cause a manic episode. So I have to be aware of those sort of things and watch that. And so I have to be aware of things, and everybody's different. Everybody has different reactions to different medications and that sort of thing. When I get sick, if I need a medication, they check against the medications I'm on for my bipolar disorder, so that way the medication isn't counteracting.
yeah.
Um,
Oh.
yeah.
But food wise, you can still eat anything you want to eat food wise.
Yeah, so I'm actually I met with a chiropractor who does food testing, and so she was able to test me for a bunch of different foods and tell me which ones my body just doesn't process properly. And so I've, for the last just under a year, been on a very special diet, and everybody's different for this for sure. But I don't eat a lot of things, like I can't have gluten anymore, which I kind of knew because it made me feel gross anyway. But
Okay.
I can't have like processed cheese and milk or chicken or poultry. And there's a long list.
Ice
Corn
cream.
and I can have like coconut milk ice cream and that sort of thing. So it's monitoring what I'm eating, which I mean just makes me feel healthier in the
Yeah.
long run anyway. But it does help with my mental health too, because my body isn't trying to fight through other things as well. And so that'll change too. I can go in and get retested and see what I can and cannot process. But that is part of what I would do. It's not necessary, but it is something I decided to do for me because I want to be the healthiest that I can be.
Yes. Okay, so your family's been supportive so far, right? Apart from you like
Yeah,
moving to the other end of the world, but they've been supportive,
yeah.
right? Yeah. So, but have there been people in your lives who were not as supportive? I guess nobody's obligated to be supportive anyway, but who were, I guess, not very understanding, so to speak.
Sure. Yeah, there's that's something I'm gonna run into a lot. Some people just don't get it, and it's not that most times they just need to be educated. This is what it looks like. Media portrays bipolar disorder in a horrible sense. I watch stuff where people are like, oh my gosh, I understand bipolar disorder. And they tell me this movie or this episode of a show that they watched. And I watch it. I'm like, that's not bipolar at all. That's not what it's like to live with it. And so it's interesting to see, and it makes sense why people don't understand it. Honestly, before I was diagnosed, the concept of bipolar disorder scared me because I didn't understand what it was or what it looks like. And all I knew from the media was that people were flying off the handle and being violent. That's not me at all. I've never been violent in my life with a manic episode or depression. So it wasn't something that I experienced. So it looks different for everybody for sure. And there are some people that might have that. But typically there is a violent streak in their personality to begin with, and so it just amplifies that. So everybody is definitely different. I don't recommend believing everything you see on TV.
Noted. Yeah, I think before I looked through WebMD, I was basing everything based on what I had seen in Criminal Minds, and I was like, okay,
yeah.
You're gonna throw hands with me right now. She's looking to gonna fight me.
Yeah, no, definitely don't base what you know about any mental illness off of, like, do your research as a consumer of the media, and learn and educate yourself. There's a movie, I think it's called Split. It was about personality disorders, and it didn't do the best job at showing what the typical person would look like. And I've seen other shows and things that I'm like, oh, you know what, that's not what it's like to live with whatever mental illness. And so it's a lot of educating, and not just blindly accepting this is what it looks like. The best thing you can do is find somebody who's willing to talk about it, educate yourself, and find somebody who's willing to say, like, hey, this is what it's like. And that's part of the reason why I'm so open about it, is because I know other people have been diagnosed with bipolar and they get really terrified and they don't know where to start with that or what that looks like. And so it's really scary. And so to be able to say, hey, you know what, I have bipolar disorder. I was diagnosed 6 years ago. My life is going amazing. And I'm running a successful business while I'm managing it. One of the things that I read when I first got diagnosed is that you would never have a full, fulfilled life. And I was like, I don't want to live my life not being able to reach my goals or be successful. And that was really hard to kind of try to wrap my mind around. And I was like, it's not fair. And I've proven it wrong. So you don't believe everything you read on the internet.
Oh my God, we've talked so much about the mental health part. Let's talk about the social media part.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if a business has just launched, or maybe you've been in the market for a while, maybe you're posting once in a while on social media because everyone else is, and most of the advice online says post on social media. How do I create like an actual social media strategy for my business?
Yeah, so there's tons of resources out there that you can kind of focus on. One of the things that I like to say is be very visible, especially when you're first starting out. People don't know who you are. So get visible, get in front of people. And I mean, that's really good advice for businesses that have been out there for a long time too. If you're not visible, you're not getting in front of people, people aren't going to remember you. So be very visible, post regularly, be consistent in your marketing, your messaging, and everything of that sense. But you can also really focus on building relationships. That's really, really important. I love telling the story. There's a window company here locally, and they engaged with me and all my clients on Instagram. And I don't know who ran their account. I would love to meet them because they're amazing. But they did such a good job. And I don't need new windows in my home, but if I ever do, I know exactly where I'm going because I built this relationship with the company on the internet. And so it's a really great example of how you can use your business. If people ask me like, hey, I need new windows in the home, I'm like, you know what, you need to go to this company because they're consistent and they're really great and they give lots of value and that sort of thing. So keeping all that in mind is really important.
Okay. Is there any actual difference? Any actual value if you post like say 3 times a day, 4 times a day, 5 times a day compared to once a day, like the number of times you post in a day, does that make any actual difference?
Absolutely. Yeah. So each platform is a little bit different. So on Twitter, you want to tweet as many times a day as possible. The more you tweet, the better engagement you're going to get. They say anywhere from 12 to 16 times a day is really
Holy
great
crap.
if you want to get the most engagement. And so I tried it for a week and it worked. The engagement was amazing. I also discovered I don't have time to do anything else. So
Yeah.
it wasn't sustainable. So I tweet maybe 4 or 5 times a day, and I'm okay with that. But if I'm looking to really grow my account, then I'll up my engagement. Facebook 1 to 3 times tops, and you have to test these things out and see what your audience likes. If you're posting 3 times a day and you're getting zero engagement, maybe scale back and focus on the kind of content you're putting out there. It would be better to put high quality content out there instead of just a large quantity of content. So look at what you are posting and just be consistent with it. It's better to post once a day or 3 times a week, even instead of posting every day or multiple times a day for a couple weeks and then not posting anything again. It's better to spread that out so that way you're being consistent in your marketing.
So now, everyone, including you, just keep talking about high quality content. What
Yeah.
exactly is that?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that question. So, high quality content, it depends on your industry, on your target audience, but essentially it's when you're giving value to your audience. If they're getting something from your content, it's high quality. So, there's 3 E's. So, there's education, entertainment, and engagement. And so, if you're doing one of those 3 things with your content to your audience, they're going to get value from it. And so maybe you're educating them on something in your industry or a product or a service in a not spammy way. So instead of being like, hey, I have these new shirts, they're red, they're really soft, you should come buy them.
Come buy them, come buy them, come buy them.
Maybe don't go that route, but maybe educate and say like, hey, this is like the story behind why we sell red shirts. That's a horrible example, but that concept, I pulling off the top of my head here. But like educate them on the sort of things. Entertainment, if you're giving them some sort of emotion that goes with it, you see videos go viral all the time because they make you really happy or really sad. And so you get that emotional connection with the content. It's a really great way to work with them. And then engagement, if you're getting people to comment or share your posts, if it's share worthy, then you're providing value. If people want to share your content, it means they got something out of it. And so it's a really great way to tell if your content is high quality or not.
So the part about creating a story, does that mean that for like every single social media post, I have to tell a story? That sounds exhausting.
It can be for sure. So telling stories is a great way. I love it, especially for personal brands, to tell a story and get people to engage with you and like have that personal connection with you. If you build a personal connection with people, then they're more likely to come back to you and read your content and that sort of thing. So it's really important. And that's part of the reason why I tell my story as a business owner and with mental illness as I'm running a social media company. I'm very open about all of it because it attracts the right kind of people. I love working with people that are wanting to make a difference, if they're especially if they're in the mental health industry. And so by doing that and telling my story, I attract my audience. And so telling stories is a really great way to do that, for sure. Not that it means every single time you post you have to tell a story.
Like, hi,
But
this is my cat. 45 years ago, she has one leg. It's a backstory. This is like, oh my gosh.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, intertwine that with your other content. If you can keep kind of the same consistency in branding and that sort of thing. So this is my story. And so my content lines up with that. You're going to be the most successful. But that's the same with any brand, whether you're telling stories or you're just posting content out there. As long as you're keeping the same tone and voice and messaging, you'll be all right.
Okay. And then now like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram are kind of popular. Like, what social media platform do you think businesses should focus on?
Depends on your target audience for sure. Every social media platform has a different demographic on it. So like TikTok is really popular right now with the younger generations. And so if that's somebody you want to kind of get in front of or educate, millennials, not to say that there isn't older generations on there. I follow a lady and she's like 70 years old. She's hilarious. So not to say that everybody isn't on those platforms, but look at where the majority of that demographic is, and then use the platforms that make the most sense, and get in front of those people. So Facebook is one of my favorite just because there's such a wide range of people in there, that you can reach in front of. People say all the time, oh, the younger generation is not on there. Millennials aren't on there. Let me tell you, I'm a millennial and all my friends are on there. So we're still there. But so you just have to kind of look and decide what makes the most sense for your business and your audience.
Okay. Now I know Facebook is like the biggest social media platform where every business is, but then Facebook keeps changing their algorithm, and for you to actually like get any significant growth, you probably would have to like invite all your friends to like your page and then maybe boost some posts. So is there any way to actually grow your audience on Facebook without like throwing money at it?
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely more difficult to grow without running ads, for sure. And I want to be upfront about that, obviously. But if you're really focusing on building those relationships and engaging your audience, it's going to grow slowly, but it will grow for sure. And so the reason why that works is, so the way the algorithm works is, if I comment on a post and I'm Facebook friends with you, then you're more likely to see that content as well. And then if it's good quality content, you're going to engage with it, which is going to expand it to all of your friends list. So you want to build that content where you're engaging, for sure. That's going to be a really high focus for you as you're growing your audience. It's definitely not impossible, but it is for sure a little bit more difficult. One of the things you said was invite all your friends to like the page. And as much as that seems like a really genius idea, you want to only invite the people that are going to engage with your content. If you have 10,000 followers or likes on Facebook and only 600 of them are actually engaging with you, it affects the algorithm. The way an algorithm works is, if it puts the content out to 10 people, let's say, and one of the 10 people engage with it, it's going to mark it as irrelevant content. It's not really great, high performing content. So they're not going to push it out to more people. But if 9 out of those 10 people engage with it, then they're like, oh, this is amazing content. And it'll push it out to as many people as possible. So you want to make sure that the people you're inviting to like your page are the ones that are actually going to engage with it. So, I mean, if your mom is a really big supporter, shout out to my mom, then you can invite them to like your page because they'll engage with it.
Yeah.
But if they're not, then don't invite them. It's not going to get you any further ahead.
Okay. And then are there scenarios where you would say someone should not run an ad?
So the only time I would recommend not running ads is if you don't already have two things. They don't have an audience on social media already. You want to make sure that you have an audience, because you can run ads and that's really great. But if people go to your Facebook page and you've never posted anything, they're going to be like, how do I know they're reputable? How do I know anything about them? And so they're less likely to buy from you. But you also want to make sure that you have a converting offer already. If you're not selling to begin with, then you're not ready to be running ads. You want to make sure that your content, it's the right pricing or the right messaging or the right branding behind it, because there's so many different factors that you need to pay attention to. And running ads, a lot of times you're just flushing that money right down the toilet because you're not ready to be selling to the masses anyway.
Okay. And so right now Instagram is kind of like very popular.
Yeah.
Okay. So like, give us like your Instagram tips, your Instagram hacks that we can apply.
Sure. Yeah. So Instagram's really great, depending on the audience in your industry and stuff, for sure. But one of my favorite strategies, it's not my strategy, I totally took it from Gary Vaynerchuk, but it's called the $80 strategy. And so the way it works is you would find 10 of the top hashtags that your audience is using, not that your industry is using, but your audience. And then you go through and you comment on the top 9 posts every day of those, and you leave your 2 cents. So when you do that, it equals $80. So you put your 2 cents on all those posts, and when you do that, you build relationships for sure, and you get more exposure, and you're going to see growth on your account. You just have to be consistent with it and get in front of people, engage with them, watch Instagram stories, engage with people's stories, that sort of thing. The more engagement you put into it, the better growth you're going to find. So you just have to be aware of that and put in the work. You're going to see the results.
I'm going to start doing this. Yeah. And for Instagram, okay, you just mentioned like engaging people Instagram stories. I thought if you're seeing their Instagram stories, then they're already your friends.
Not necessarily. You can look up somebody and follow hashtags even.
Okay.
If you follow specific hashtags, if they've used the hashtag in their Instagram story, you can view those. So it doesn't necessarily have to be somebody you followed. You can look them up. One of my things that I like to do for clients is if I know I'm trying to reach out to farming bloggers, for example, then I would look at those hashtags, find the people that have the right following that I'm looking for, and engage with their stories. So that way I'm getting in front of them and building relationships with them. So they're more likely to work with me when I say, hey, like I have a giveaway. Do you want to be a part of it? They already know who I am. They already like engaging with me, so they're going to be more open to it than me just hitting them up randomly and be like, hey, so I have this giveaway I want to do, and they're like, I don't know you from Adam.
Why come stranger?
yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. So it really depends on your strategy and everything, but that's definitely a way to do it.
Okay. And your advice on ads also applies to Instagram ads, right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I would back you on that. I was in a period in which I had money to spend. Like this time when you feel like spending money, but like you just want to spend money. So sure. I tried to run 3 ads, 2 on Facebook. I think I did 4 ads. Let me see.
Okay.
So I did one was with a Calendly link to book free coaching calls, 20 minutes free coaching calls that I was doing. The other that was on Facebook. Okay, no, one was I did a Facebook post about the Calendly link. Then I boosted that. The other one was I went to Facebook Ad Manager, did a post for traffic. I did that. Then still there, I did a lead form ad on Facebook. Then I did a 4th ad on Instagram where I boosted a post that had an image, also with a Calendly link. And I had no audience, so I was just like trying out stuff. But then I was like, okay, I'm only gonna put like, how much was it? I think I had $100, so I put $25 on each. But then as much as I got lots of impressions, I only got like 2 clicks.
Yes, yeah. So there's a few things. When you're running ads, you want to run them to, when you're looking for a conversion, you want to run them to a warm audience, somebody who already knows who you are. Because it's really hard to sell to somebody they don't know. I like to use this analogy that if I'm walking down the road and I see a hot dog stand and I see them every day and it smells really good and I get to know the person, maybe he's like, hey, how's it going? Every day when I walk by and I'm like, oh, I'm good. How are you? And I just kind of get to know him. And then one day I'm hungry and I'm like, you know what, I'm going to stop at the hot dog stand. I'm more likely to buy from him because I know them versus having somebody standing on the street corner holding a hot dog and they're like, hey, you want a hot dog? It's only this much. No, I don't want your hot dog. I don't know you. Get away. So it's totally, that's how it works for selling. You want to already have some sort of their audience with them. And they already know who you are to kind of remarket to them. So it's really, really important to do. And then in terms of when you're looking for conversions, so I like to say, if you're just looking to build an audience and like expand your reach, $5 a day minimum and ad spend. But if you're looking for conversions, you want somebody to sign up for something, you need to have at least $20 per day. If you're putting in $2, you're going to get lots of impressions, just like you said, but you're not going to get any conversions. And so it's just a waste of money.
Yeah, it was waste of money. Yeah. Okay, I know you have to like rush out real quick, so let me just ask 2 questions that we can wrap up. So the first question was, are there any mistakes you see businesses making in terms of social media marketing that you think we need to like stop this right now?
Sure. So one of the biggest mistakes that I see, and I mean, there's so many that I could go into. The one that seems to hurt people the most is not having a clear way. It's a process already set out So when you get negative feedback or a negative comment, here's how you approach it. So it's one of the things I do for all my clients before we get a negative comment. I say, how do you want to respond to this? Let's find a really professional way of doing it. Because the biggest mistake I see from business owners is they respond back emotionally and they put together a horrible message and then they fly off the handle and then their company goes viral for all the wrong reasons. So you have to make sure that you're responding professionally. And that doesn't just mean on your public Facebook page. So one of the things that I like to do is comment and say, hey, we're sorry you had this experience. We'd love to talk to you more about it. Send us a private message and we'll see what we can do to resolve this. Then when we get into the private message, we continue to be professional because those things can be screenshotted and reshared. So it's like a two-part mistake. Yeah. So like, I'm going to be super professional. And then they blow up in the comments and then it gets screenshotted and shared everywhere and you have the same result. So you have to make sure that you're being professional no matter what. If you're feeling really emotional about a comment, take a step back, put your phone down, walk away from the computer, calm down, and then respond.
Okay. And then my second question was that, are there any misconceptions that maybe the public have or people around you have about bipolar disorder?
Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of different things. The biggest one that I see or that I find is people are just scared of it. They don't know what it means, and so they're scared of it. They don't want to be around you. I had a comment about a year ago. Somebody in a Facebook group, they didn't understand what bipolar was, and so I had shared an experience I was having, and the person was going back and forth on their word, and so the person, like a random person, commented on it. And they said, oh, they sound bipolar, you need to run away. And I was like, oh. And so they didn't know I have bipolar disorder, but I was like, oh my gosh. So that was one of those times I had to put my phone down and walk away because I was like, I don't know how to approach this.
With your hands.
I responded back after a little while and I said, hey, I think there's a better word for what you're looking for, and it's not the word bipolar. And so I educated as best as I can in that instance. But a lot of people just don't understand it. They expect people with bipolar disorder to fly off the handle, or they're not stable. They're not somebody you want to be around. And that, I mean, it really hurts when it happens, and it does happen. But you got to remember, somebody with a mental illness, because it can happen with any mental illness, that's their problem. That's not yours. You are a great person. You know your worth and your value. Listen to the people that are actually putting good things into your life. Focus on them. Anybody else, doesn't matter. Shut them out.
Okay. Let's round up real quick. So like, for people who want to know more about Nichole Howson or to work with you, how can they contact you?
Yeah. So I'm on almost every social media platform because it comes with the territory of running a social media marketing company. Yeah. So you can look me up. So it's AIM Social Media Marketing, AIM Social Media Marketing, or you can look me up, Nichole Howson. My name has an H in it because my parents thought they would make sure that all my diplomas are spelt wrong and we'd have to reorder them. It worked. So it's Nichole, Nichole. Yeah, find me anywhere online. And all my links there are for my websites and everything that I have to offer. So.
All right, thanks. Let me let you prepare for your live interview. Yeah,
thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, it was fun. Thanks for rescheduling after the blackout.
Of course, yeah. No, this is fun.
Yeah. Bye. Good luck.
Bye.